So here's the thing. Marketing is the way that you attract customers into your business and make sales on a regular basis, okay? And the right marketing strategies really open the floodgates to being able to get as many customers as you like, whenever you like. And there are dozens of marketing strategies, and you need to match your strategy to your message, to your offers, and to your business models. So all of these kind of strategies work together. You can't look at them independently. Can you see that? They work together to really create your overall business strategy. And when you have any kind of mismatch between your marketing and your offer, it's basically going to send you down what I call the marketing rabbit hole, where you're wasting a lot of time on tactics that don't actually get results. And it's like you're working hard, but your marketing is not. So who remembers the story I told about the sun and the laser beam on day one? Raise your hand if you remember that story. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. I want to tell this story about marketing because I think it's going to help a lot of people who may feel similar. I had a student who was really struggling with focus in her business. Really struggling. She was super duper creative, and she had something like 4 unfinished courses, dozens of workshop ideas, unpublished books. She was even toying with the idea of doing a monthly webinar that was different every single month, right? She was doing all kinds of stuff, but she wasn't making any money in her business. She was basically doing all this authority level stuff, but she was still at the get started level when it comes to income. Anyone else do that? Like lots of authority level stuff, but you're still at the get started level when it comes to income? Oh, a lot of hands up right now. I can see a lot of hands up right now, for sure. Okay, but here's the thing. When I asked her about this, she wrote me this note. And when I read this note, my heart just sank, and you'll see why in just a moment. She said, Marisa, if I didn't need to run a business to earn money, I wouldn't, even though I'd spend my time working on many of the same projects. And if I didn't have so much content to share, I wouldn't keep being tempted to run a business in order to do that. And the reason my heart sank when I read that is that my student had no financial motivation whatsoever. And I get it, because so many entrepreneurs go into business to share a message, to be of service, to make an impact, and they're not necessarily driven by money. But what I've realized after so many years of coaching and training is that the more you receive, the more you can serve. The more you invest, the more you can earn. And the more you earn, the more you can give. Because money fuels so many of the other entrepreneurial motivation. Money fuels things like altruism. Money fuels your lifestyle. Money fuels this idea of loving the challenge and the growth that comes with entrepreneurship. And if you don't really have money, all the other things that really do motivate you can't be supported. So here's the thing. Harvard University identified 13 different entrepreneurial motivations. Actually, these are motivations that both entrepreneurs and employees have that really determine the choices that we make when it comes to building our business, and ultimately the choices that we make when it comes to, going into a career and choosing a profession. And they found that there are 13 distinct motivations. And those motivations are affiliation, where the people that you're surrounded with are just as important as what it is that you do. Altruism, which is really the satisfaction that comes from helping other people. There's autonomy, where you don't like supervision and you like to call the shots in your career and in your business. Financial gain, of course, which is the obvious one, but fewer people than you would think have that as a primary motivation. Many of my students do not have that in their top 3. Then there's intellectual challenge, which is work that pushes you to solve problems or master new skills, where you get to grow through work. There's lifestyle, which is the time and flexibility to enjoy your family and your leisure activities. There's managing people, where you want to be responsible for and to direct your employees. There's positioning, where you want to be well positioned to make your next move. Power and influence, which is making important decisions that affect everything from policy to people. There's prestige, which is the desire for high recognition and respect, right? And there's also just pure recognition. So there's prestige and recognitions are similar, but they're a little bit different. So recognition is just simply getting appreciation for everything that you do. And then there's security, which is valuing predictable income and benefits and future work. And then there's variety, where you like to mix the tasks required by work with activities that you find enjoyable. So those are the 13 specific motivations, and they're on page 49 of your workbook. And I want you to do really quickly is just take 2 minutes now, look at these 13 motivations, and choose your top 3. So you understand what you need from your business. Because when you understand what you need from your business and what motivates you to do business, then you can actually build your business aligned with what motivates you. So you can get what you want from your business and give what you want through your business. And that's super duper important to building that unstoppable business that we talked about and we've been talking about all weekend long. So go ahead and take 2 minutes now to make your choice. And I'm going to show you what this has to do with your marketing in just a moment. All right, so coming back into the room, and I see many of you dropping your challenges, or you're not your challenges, your motivations there in the chat. And I see some person saying it's kind of hard to decide. So one of the great processes to use if you're having trouble deciding on a top 3 is to say this or this. If I could only have variety or lifestyle, which would I choose? And then you choose the one, right? And that's how you find which one's more important to you. Now, let me tell you about my top motivation so you can see how I build my business aligned with my top motivations. So, can anyone guess what my number 1 motivation is? Try to guess what my number 1 motivation is. I'm going to look at the chat and see if you got it. Looking at both sides, what's my number 1 motivation? Someone wrote altruism. Nope. Impact, freedom. There you go. Tiffany Barsati, who's a Momentum grad, said intellectual challenge. She knows me well. For sure, it is intellectual challenge and growth. I thrive when I'm growing and I'm developing new things. I always have to feel like I'm at the edge of my comfort zone and trying something new to feel happy and excited about business. I mean, this is the 9th time that I've done this event. And I couldn't do it if I weren't reinventing the event every time and looking at how can I do more? How can I provide a better experience? How can I give more? How can I do a greater level of performance, right? And I've done my best to really create a better event every single time that I deliver it. But here's the thing. In order for me to be able to do that, I've got to go into my creative cave sometimes for a month or 2 at a time to create all of this stuff. And so I need money to hire a team to run the business so I can go into my creative cave and feel happy and fulfilled in my business. Are you seeing how that works? And so I understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I really embrace the fact that a business is here to earn money, because when I earn more money, I get to speak on a bigger stage and paint on a bigger canvas. And that's the thing that drives me and excites me more than anything else. Now, the next entrepreneurial motivation that many of my students have is altruism. So many of my students have altruism in their top 3. And raise your hand if you've got altruism in your top 3. Raise your hand. Oh my gosh, almost everybody. All right, I have something very close to altruism, but it's what I call impact, which is slightly different than altruism. And here's the thing that happens so often is when people are big givers, when they want to be of service, they oftentimes don't allow themselves to receive from their work as much as they could. Am I right? How many of you givers don't receive as much as you could? Raise your hand if that's you. Yeah. But the more you receive, the more you can serve. Can you see that? The more you receive, the more you can serve. And the more you invest, the more you can earn. And the more you earn, the more you can give. And that's why money is so important to altruism as well. And here's the thing. The ultimate entrepreneur mindset is being able to create the resources that you need at any time. At any time. So you can give even more. It's really about expanding your capacity to receive from your work, to earn money through your work, so you can serve in a more deep way, so you can transform more lives. Now, this here that you see on the screen is the Japanese Ikigai, and it's a 1,000-year-old model that the Japanese believe is responsible for happiness and success in life, and Ikigai stands for a reason for being. And the Japanese believe that every single person has a reason for being, and when you find your reason for being in a way that matches these 4 criteria, it allows you to have that happy and successful life. So I believe the same is true when it comes to entrepreneurship. So what I've done is I've added archetypes to each of these 4 things the Japanese believe is essential when it comes to a happy and successful life. So here's the thing though, in order to build a business, you do kind of need all 4. What you love, you need to do what you love, you need to do what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. But what I find is that my students tend to lead a little bit more to one of these aspects than the other. So when it comes to being an artist, you really focus more on what you love. And the problem with artists, and my student who wrote me that note was definitely an artist, is that an artist is willing to give and give and give without ever really receiving for their work. Because the artist just loves to create. I'm an artist, by the way. I love to create. So I used to love to create without getting paid for it until I could love to get paid for what I created too. And the altruist really always does what the world needs, even if they don't get to receive from their work. So what happens so often with that is the altruists end up feeling a little bit burnt out. And that's why there's so much burnout and martyrdom sometimes in the nonprofit world, is people just give so much they can't sustain the work. And the engineer is really focuses on what they can get paid to do. They're the ones that are a little bit more practical and money focused. And the last archetype is the innocent. And yes, that is me as a child. And the innocent does what they're good at, what comes naturally to them, right? So the artist and the altruist are on the broke but fulfilled end of the spectrum, the economic spectrum. So they tend to be very fulfilled and satisfied in their work, but they also tend to be broke. So this idea of being able to create the resources that you need anytime you want to do your work in the world, the artists and the altruists don't always have that alignment with that, right? So that's why they run into so many different challenges. And it's also why, for example, altruists, like I said, can tend to burn out. And it's one of the reasons why I left the nonprofit world. And I believe that nonprofits do incredible, very, very important work in the world. But what I realize is that personally, I can have way more impact being an entrepreneur and supporting entrepreneurs all over the world than I could have in my career as a nonprofit. Now, lots of nonprofits can have massive impact, but I just realized that personally I could give more through my business, and that is my number 2 motivation. It is impact. It's impact. And impact is a little bit different than altruism, because altruism is being of service and giving, but for me, impact is giving in a way that I know is going to make a very specific transformation and create real change in the world. And that's what drives me. And you may be asking, well, Marisa, who are you? Who are you to think that you can change the world? I mean, I'm just this 4'11.25" woman, right? How can I change the world? Or as Marianne Williamson says, who are you not to? Because here's the thing. What if Gandhi said, who am I to stand up for injustice? What would have happened to the global movement that he built around the world? What if Mother Teresa were to say, who am I to believe that one person can end suffering and poverty and not that interfere with her movement to support the sick and the poor around the world? What if Rosa Parks said, "Who am I?" to stand up for prejudice and sit at the front of the bus? And she sparked a movement to end racial injustice around the world. Now, none of these people, I imagine, understood or knew the impact that they could have when they stepped up and stood up for their beliefs. But when they did, so much came out of that for just standing up for their beliefs. So I really recommend acting as if instead of asking what if or how can I.